The second Mindcor perspective is going to unpack why is South Africa bucking international trends. Now, the essence to this is going to be a leadership story. Now, we spent the first Mindcor perspective talking about interim executive solutions. Today, we're going to talk about why South Africans make good leaders and what we've seen in the marketplace in terms of our ability to step up to the plate, to make a difference, and how that's translated into economic indicators. Before we talk about why we've seen South Africa bucking international trends, we should perhaps highlight some of the contrasts that we've seen reported within media. On the one hand, we see US consumer confidence at its lowest levels since February 2010. We see reports of consumer spending down, which means companies are not hiring. Korn Ferry's Confidence in Leadership Index, which was announced in September, has shown how in Europe, in the States, and in Asia, there has been a 10 to 23% decline in confidence in leadership and leadership-related activities. We've seen our own JSE jump by 9.6% so far this month. We at Mindcor have seen continued levels of strength in terms of hiring. We've heard the World Bank talk about South Africa beating its peer group in terms of current performance. A Mindcor perspective is going to talk about what we perceive to be the reasons for this contrast. Mindcor has been privileged to engage with multiple leaders across multiple industries and multiple sectors. From that engagement, we've spent some time trying to identify the attributes that South African leaders have brought to the economic environment over the last 18 to 24 months in terms of how do we manage periods of uncertainty. There have been three distinct attributes that our leaders have displayed, and I'd like to highlight all three. Those are future focus, people leadership, and resilience. Let's start by talking about future focus. Future focus is the ability to create, to set, and maintain strategic intent, to ensure that there's adequate levels of innovation, of transformation at all levels in the business, to make sure that we are forever expanding our horizon and our vision into the next phase of business, asking those critical questions. What should we be? What are we aiming to achieve? What are we seeing as trends that could impact on our products? How should our services be evolving? And where are the next opportunities and customers going to be coming from? Now, the second, people leadership. Now, leadership is the ability to inspire and to motivate others. And within the context of business, that often translates into enabling operational leaders to think smarter, to act with clearer direction, to do more with less, to innovate, to adapt, and to change, but to bring about an absolute focus on core business results and ensure that the end state is always achieved. It's about creating a space into which people can flourish, an attribute that South African leaders at an executive level have been found to have and have honed over many years of experience. The third, and perhaps almost the most important during this period of uncertainty, has been resilience. Now, resilience is a personal ability to bounce back, to come back from an unexpected event or an unexpected change, but to remain absolutely focused and to persevere in the achievement of the desired end state. It's most seen when we understand the trend, we understand the change, we analyze information, we take on board new data, we translate that into knowledge, and then we react. We set new direction. We ensure that new process and methodology is implemented, but we never lose sight of that original or intended end state or desired end state that we had set out to achieve in the first place. Now, Mindcor has noticed that these three attributes, future focus, people leadership, and resilience, have actually had a profound impact on how we believe the South African economy has weathered this difficult period. In fact, those are the three key attributes that we look for in leaders today in terms of an executive's ability to manage organizations through difficult periods. In terms of understanding Maybe just one contributing factor to how South Africa has been able to buck some of the trends that we've referred to earlier in terms of economic performance and also in terms of hiring practices. Mindcor Consulting have identified that within leadership, we spoke of three components: future focus, leadership, and resilience. Now, within that leadership component, Mindcor Consulting have spent some time understanding what good practice looks like. And that's what I would like to talk about now. Now, to unpack effective leadership practice in a podcast is a bit of a challenge. But I think that there are three key elements that I'd like to talk about. Now, we sometimes forget that perhaps the most important attribute of a leader, before they can enlist the support of others, is to in fact set direction. Now, the setting of direction should be an inclusive process. It's a process where we get everybody in the organization involved, for the longest journey in life is in fact those 12 inches between our head and our heart. And for somebody to buy in and support the journey, they need to form part of shaping that journey. Now, direction is where it all begins. But what should we articulate or consider within that direction? I find it useful to consider these three aspects here. They start with a sense of purpose, answering the question, why do we exist? We have to have an aspiration. What are we aiming for? What are we striving to achieve? And the great thing, of course, with an aspiration is that even if we don't quite get there, it's been an incredible journey and has been a great path that we can look back on. And of course, these are things that can change and do need to be reshaped over time. And the final aspect for me, rather than values, perhaps are guiding principles. And guiding principles we can define and articulate with slightly more detail. Combined, purpose, aspiration, guiding principles define for me a sense of direction. That's not enough. We have direction. Can we implement that? Not really. We need to articulate direction, and perhaps the best way to do that is according to the Kaplan and Norton methodology of the balanced scorecard that considers financial, customer and stakeholder, process, and people. And I would use the word objectives. So we identify the right things that we should focus on to achieve our direction. So we know where we're going. We know what we need to focus on to achieve that direction that has been articulated in terms of a purpose, an aspiration, and a sense of guiding principles, how we should behave on that journey. Is that enough? No. We've got to take it down to the individual, because until we understand our individual role in achieving strategy, it's not real. And that talks about the importance of metrics. The best strategies are not those that go thud when you drop them on a table. There are those that are articulated often on just one page. But the key to a successful strategy is when every single person in the organization understands how their role has a direct impact on the achievement of the direction that's been set. And that can only be achieved in one way. And that is understanding what are the critical things that I, the individual, within my team need to do to achieve the focus areas that enable us to achieve the direction that we have set. A Mindcor perspective, leadership in action, the golden thread that runs from direction to individual metrics to enable the achievement of strategy.